And so, my dear ones, here we are, and welcome into the sanctuary. And we continue in this month of Amazing Grace. Internationally, that's the theme, Amazing Grace. Again, all there is that wonderful, deep, vibrational energy and power and essence and presence, and it is amazing grace. Whatever you want to call it, that's what it is. And it never leaves us. And look how in our speech we say all the time, by the grace of God, I blah, 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 blah. By the grace of God, that parking place showed up. And so on. So grace is more often on our mind than you might imagine. We're more aware of it than you might really be consciously thinking about grace. And so we are this thing called grace. We learned last week it's one of our names. It's one of the ways we name ourselves, grace, grace. However, you and I are here today to really and truly embrace the enormity of understanding that more fully than ever we have before, because many of us, very many of us, grew up with the idea and the concept that we were indeed miserable sinners and that hell awaited us. Any moment, any turn or twist, hell awaited us. And that was what we grew up thinking of ourselves as, sinners. A sinner at best and a wicked, horrible one at worst, you see. And so when you got to the wicked, horrible state of believing about yourself, you thought, oh, to hell with it. I can't do any much more. I'm just going to go and be really bad, you know, because there's no getting out of this. No matter which way I turn, hell awaits me. So, you know, have a good time while you're here, you know, kind of thing. Or you go to the other pole of that and you become so pious and so holy and so stiff and starchy and so afraid of doing the wrong thing and all the various shades in between. Well, we understand now through the wisdom of amazing grace and through the wisdom of those who have discovered it, that really and truly sin originally meant an old English archer's term, an old English term for an archer's way of missing the mark. So sin really means I missed the mark. God knows you and I can identify with that very easily. We miss the mark all over the place. And ask anybody who knows you and they'll agree with you. And so, you see, we're okay with that. We miss the mark. We miss the mark. We're also... if you go to Ernest Holmes and you look up all the various and sundry wonderful, wise things he has said, one of the things he said is, you know, that sin is indeed a mistake. And we're not punished for our mistakes, but we do suffer because of the consequences of them. And that's very real, and that's going to be our experience that will happen. I like what Emerson said. He said that the only sin is the sin of ignorance, and its solution is wisdom. And again, Dr. Ernest says, you know, that the whole world is hypnotized by other people's thoughts. The whole world is hypnotized by a belief in other people's thoughts that we have taken into ourselves and made our own. And it's mesmerizing. And so, amazing grace is that which says, you know, you're falling asleep. Wake up, pay attention. Pay attention. It's not the first time you've heard that the unexamined life is not worth living. And last week we did focus on understanding that you do have to question your mind. Oh my goodness me, of course you have to question your mind, and so have I, because that mind has a way of its own of running rampant and so on and so forth. And we do have to examine the content of our minds and question and question and question it. And that helps us to be more graceful in our lives and to benefit from the wisdom of grace. And I recently came across old tapes, not tapes, but CDs of Byron Katie this week. And I started to listen to them again, and I thought, oh gosh, I remember how wise this woman was. Now, Byron Katie had a dreadful experience in her own life. She had gone to hell in a handbasket, and she'd be the first to tell you that. She was deeply, deeply depressed. She said she was a horrible mother. She shouted at the kids all the time, and just a pair of socks on the ground was enough to send her into a fit. And she didn't understand why she had to tell the children over and over again to pick up their socks and put them away, and they never did. And why they never did, she couldn't understand it. But anyway, she was becoming more and more depressed and became very, very withdrawn. She was blessed with the awareness of being able to make money, no problem to her. Money came to her and she was able to work from home. She would buy houses, redo them, sell them, all of that stuff. And she did it all on the phone kind of thing. So she said she would stay in her pajamas for, days on end. It was a time when she got to the point where her hair was so matty, really. So eventually she got so bad that she ended up in a halfway house kind of thing. And even the ladies in the house were afraid of her. They wouldn't want to be near her. In fact, they put her up in the top attic away from everybody else. And she said for a long time she lay on the floor in this room because she didn't feel she was worthy of lying in the bed. And then one morning, as the dawn was rising, lying on the floor, she had this complete sense of joy filling her. This warmth and this joy filling her. And I get God bumps when I think about it, because the way she tells it, it's amazing. And she said, I rose up from that experience and I knew I was changed. And I became a totally different person as a result, to the point that I loved picking up the socks off the floor. I loved everything I did. I loved doing what I was doing in life. I felt privileged to do what I was doing in life. Everything became different, and people began to wonder, especially her children. She said they had this fun thing. They used to sing, "The Wicked Witch is, dead." They used to all sing it together, and they didn't know what was going on. She would sing it with them, when she came to herself, not before, when she came to herself. And people would be drawn to her. People would talk to her. People began to say, I think you've become enlightened and stuff. She said, enlightened? I didn't know what enlightened was. I had to learn all about all of that. But anyway, this is what her process was that she came to, that worked for her all the time and kept that beautiful grace flowing through her. And it's a process that's based on 4 questions, and many of you have already heard them. And if you do any of her work, you'll do these questions. And if you read any of her books, they're all there. I like the CDs because she herself is talking, and you get the animated, you get all of that wonderful sense of it. And so the first question is, whatever it is, you don't love me. You just don't love me. You don't love me enough. You just don't love me. And she said, you have to ask yourself the question, or they don't love me. They don't love me. It doesn't matter whether it's an individual or them, they, the faceless they. No one in the world loves me. Is this true? Now, she said, you don't ask yourself, this true, and then run away and not think about it. She says, you have to allow the heart consciousness to focus on this, not the human consciousness, not the mind, the upper minds, the conscious minds, but the subconscious mind's heart. Think about it. Is this the truth? Is this true? You don't love me or enough. They don't love me. Is that true? And she says you use each question as a meditation. You don't gallop through the questions. You use it as a meditation. You get quiet, you get still, you're going into meditation. Is this true? You don't love me. And you stay with that, and then you move on to the next question, regardless. Unless the answer is no, it's not true. If the answer is not no, it's not true, you go on to, is this the absolute truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You don't love me. And you quietly sit with that. You meditate on that, and you allow the wisdom of your heart's mind to come up with the answer to that one. And then the next question is, how do I react to you don't love me? What does that do to me? What does that do to me when I ponder and think about, you don't love me, or you don't love me enough, or you don't hear me, or you don't listen to me, or whatever? It's all under the umbrella of you don't love me enough. What is my reaction? What goes on in my mind? What goes on in my body? What goes on in my feelings? What goes on in my life? How does that affect my life every time I think about, you don't love me? How's that affecting my life? Who am I in this as a result of that question? You examine it again from the heart, mind. And then you go to the next question. How would I be? Who would I be? What would I be if I never had to ask myself that question? If that question never entered into my mind? How would that affect my life? How would I be thinking? How would I be feeling? How would I be doing? You see, they don't love me is interesting if it's a they or even you. Because the you is out there getting on with his, her life, not thinking about whether or not they love you enough or whatever. They're out there living their life, and what are you doing? You're out there with them, trying to live their lives in the way that you want them to change so that you can know that you are loved enough. In the meantime, your life is not being lived at all. To any great degree, or of value or of worth, because that thought is preoccupying you and affecting every single thing that's going on in your day and in your life. And then, if you do the process as meditation, you turn the whole thing around. The thing gets turned around. Do you love me? And you see it from the point of view of the other and then from the self. Do I love you? You turn it around. Do I love you enough? And then the self. Do I love myself? Do I love myself enough? And there's the key. It's not about whether he loves you enough, she loves you enough. It's about, do you love yourself enough? It's a question to ask ourselves regularly. Do I love myself enough in order to heal? In order to discover my real and true self? Do I love myself enough to be courageous and free in the way I live my life? Do I love myself enough to know I don't need you to love me enough? I don't need you to love me enough. I really don't. I'm delighted, I'm glad that you love me, but I don't need you to love me enough so I can think I'm worth loving and lovable. Because it doesn't matter how much you love me. If I don't love myself, I will always think you don't love me enough. The hole is too deep to be filled by anything out there or anyone out there. I have to fill that myself by knowing that life itself, love itself, is me, is the nature, is the essence of me, and the only reason why I am here is because love chose to know itself informed by means of me. I am love. And how can you add to what already is full, whole, complete, to the point that it can spill over and keep spilling over and never be diminished? Isn't that amazing? And look at us all moaning and whining and grumping and complaining about not enoughness across the board. And it's certainly going to begin with, you don't love me enough. Because if you love me enough, blah, 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 Fido, blah, 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 Fido, blah, 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 Fido. You don't even listen to yourself. love is always enough in and of itself. And that might be too nebulous for some of us. Use the 4 questions. Is this the truth? Is it the absolute truth? How do I react to this truth? What does it make me? What does it make me? And then, who would I be if I wasn't focused and concentrated on my lack of whatever it is? If I thought I lacked for nothing, who would I be? If I thought I had no need for anything than what's in my life right now, because that's the truth. Because if you truly needed it, it would be in your life now. If you really, truly needed something, it would be in your life right now. If it's not in your life right now, you don't need it. And absolutely, that question has to be asked in the present moment right now. I need more money. Gosh, who doesn't identify with that? But I don't need more money right now. Right here and right now, I don't need more money. I don't. I have enough money right here and right now. But the mind loves to scare itself silly by futuring. Well, I need more money because I don't know. Maybe later on I won't have enough money, and who's going to take care of me if I don't have enough money? See? But right here, right now is where I live my life. It's the only place I live my life. And I don't know how long the future is ahead of me. It could be a whole big or not. But right here and right now, I don't have any need of more money. And right here and right now, I don't have any need for more love. There's only one need I have need of. One need, and that's all the need I ever have. And that's for a greater understanding and awareness of the true beingness of myself. That's my need. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts cannot find rest until they rest in you. The godliness here. You and I will be restless forever and a day, longing and yearning and feeling incomplete and in need and needy, until I understand and realize I really don't need anything. I don't need anything. What helps me to stay in amazing grace? What helps you to stay in amazing grace? What keeps us blessed? What keeps us feeling prosperous and abundant? What keeps us feeling that we have everything we need and all is well? What is that? It is amazing grace, but it's only amazing grace that shows up through the way you and I are thinking. And the way you and I are thinking creates how you and I are feeling. And the way you and I are thinking and feeling creates our behaviors. And the way we behave creates the kind of life we have. Who is it I think I need in my life to love me enough in order to allow me to discover my truth, to heal enough so that I can discover my truth? Who do I need in my life in order to be me at my best? Is it him? Is it her? Is it them, they? Who is it? Could it be me? Could it just be me? The only one I need in my life in order to love myself enough so that I can heal and so that I can come into my truth and be the best truth that I can be while I'm here. How's that going to happen for me? Amazing grace needs to show up not only in me, but in those who are near and dear to me and those who are very close to me, especially a spouse, if it's a spouse. And the way this thing happens is, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, oh, I love you, I love you. You know that I love you, don't you know that I love you? I love you so much, I love you so much. I'm so glad you're in my life. Oh my gosh, I don't know who I'd be without you. Oh, la, 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 la. And then you disturb that person, you annoy that person, you anger that person, you might even think you hurt that person, or they might think you hurt that person. And then what happens? That person withdraws that love. You don't hear all the endearments. You don't get the reassurance. You don't feel that that's a safe harbor anymore. You feel that you're out there on your own, adrift in a sea of confusion, etc. And what needs to happen in your life and my life when somebody whom I love and who loves me is affronted by something I may have said or done, who gets upset, who gets annoyed, who gets irritated, who gets angry, who gets hurt by what I have done, what I do appreciate or would appreciate from that person is not a withdrawal of that love, but I would benefit very much and heal very much quicker and come back to myself very much more quickly if that love still showed up. If I could know in spite of that, that love was still there as a safe harbor and that I could feel safe in the heart of the loved one. And that would allow me to come to my senses and come back to myself and to heal much more quickly. And so the conversation might go on a different level. Please, when I upset and when I annoy and when I disturb and when I distress and when I irritate and when I hurt you, please, don't remove yourself from me. Don't remove your spirit from me. I've already removed my great self from myself. I've already lost myself. I'm lost from myself. Myself is missing. I've already abandoned me. Please don't abandon me too. But be there with me in this. Be the safe harbor. Be the solid rock. Be the light beacon to help me find myself back to myself. And there's how love shows up. Real love. Unconditional love shows up. But that's not what we do, is it? We get all hissy. And that's the nice word for it. We get all hissy. And we get affronted. And we get, self-righteous. For the most part, if we're honest. And even if we don't demonstrate that in behaviors and so on, we certainly go there in mind. So how do we help ourselves to be the amazing grace that we're called to be? Do like Zig Ziglar discovered and shared. And Zig Ziglar was a very great motivational speaker based on becoming a super salesperson in the country and influenced many lives. And in his book, See You at the Top, he talks about, he did this wonderful study on 100 very successful people, across the board, diverse in ages, diverse in backgrounds, cultures, and so on, from the 20s right up into the 70s and beyond. And the one outstanding thing across the board was that they all were great good finders. Great good finders. They got up every day, they found the good in themselves, and they went out and they made sure they were going to find good in others and good in situations that they found themselves in. Every single day they got up with the chosen, deliberate intention to find the good in themselves, to find the good in others, and to find the good in every situation. That's what they all attributed the number one reason why they were so successful. And that showed up. Another young teacher who read the book and the study and all of that, Hal Urban, he began every single class he taught, either in school or college level, with, okay, everyone is going to share a piece of good news now. You're going to share a piece of good news. It might be your own good news, it might be your family's good news, it might be something you've seen on television, whatever it is, but you're going to share a piece of good news now. Began every class with sharing one piece of good news, and every single person had to do that. Day after day after day, and that grew, and that grew, and that grew, that sense of, it's good news day, it's good news week, there's good news in the world. And that grew to the point that after every class he would teach, he'd say, write 3 things down that you got from this class. And always, every single one of the people would put as one of those 3 things, the good news practice, the good news practice. And later on in life, people would bump into him and say, I still use the good news practice, it's wonderful. I just love focusing on the good. And so that leaves us in completion of our time shared in the sanctuary today with an agreement on your part and mine to go out every day this week knowing the good in ourselves, to find the good in others, and to find the good in all situations at any cost. Are you on? It's Good News Week this week. It's Good News Week this week. And remember, you are going to be the good news in someone's life every single day. You are going to be the good news in someone's life every single day. That's a good feeling to begin with, because you can. You can deliberately choose to be good news. And God knows in the world we need good news just now. And why not let that be coming from you? Because you're empowered. You're empowered to be that good news. The gospel of life is what you are, and the gospel means good news. Get out there then and be the gospel, be the good news, and be the goodwill that we all need, and be the peace that we all need, and be the sanity that we all need. Because you can. You're wonderful, you're great, you're grand, and yes, I'm telling you, you are most lovable. Each and every single one of us in this room, you are so thoroughly most lovable. You truly are. And it doesn't matter how crabby you get, you are truly, truly lovable. You truly, truly are. And if you want to know what kind of a lover you are, how great of a lover you are, then love the crabby babbies out there. And then you know, by Jove, I got it. And so it is.